This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I talk about the college football playoff national championship. We talk about what Georgia did well, what happened to TCU, why did they lose so big. Then we talk about Ohio State and the things that happened this offseason already, from the players coming back to the players who said they are leaving to go to the NFL. Then we break down every single NFL matchup this coming weekend and who we think will win it all. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben. That's Josh. And we are back at it. Football season, Josh, is almost over. With the national championship game, we'll be covering that. The NFL playoff games, we'll be covering that this episode. But, you know, it's been a crazy, it has your first 12 days of the new year been weird at all? Or has it been kind of a normal new year for you?
I'd say it's normal. I have some friends that feel like 2023 is going to be huge, and maybe rightfully so. But to me, it just so far kind of seems like, just another month of January so far.
Don't they always come out and say it just
they
feels
do,
like this
but
is my year.
At least these guys aren't usually like that.
Okay.
They seem a little bit more optimistic for 2023. So I mean, I hope that is the case, but at least so far, doesn't feel like any other. Or I mean, I guess it feels like any other year is what I should say.
All I got to say is that I think we can get this done in one take, unlike the Speaker of the House. I am sorry.
Wait, do we retake at podcasts? Is that a rumor?
Oh, wow. No, I'm just kidding. Wow. That is my
we shoot all
joke.
of our podcasts in one take.
That is true. If you don't know what I'm talking about, grow up and go watch the news. But no, let's just say that, people are just stupid. It's just stupid sometimes. But anyways, we are going to talk about a few different things. First thing we're going to talk about is the college football playoff, like I mentioned. We're going to recap that. We're going to also talk about some news in college football, some key returners for Ohio State, and something that's maybe Ryan Day screwed up. What's new? And then we're going to talk about the NFL postseason, touch on how crappy the Browns season ended, and then we'll finish up by just saying, our classic goodbyes. Hopefully that doesn't take too long, but we'll see. Anyways, Josh, I'm just gonna say I woke up. I went to bed at my normal time here in Hungary, about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Normal time, right? I had one of my buddies who's a coach that I'm coaching with was like, "Hey, you stand up for the game." I'm like, I'm not. I'm just gonna go to bed, wake up, see what the score is. I went to bed and I woke up and I was thinking man, this maybe TCU won. Nope. First thing I pull up on Instagram, 65-7. And I'm like, excuse me? Wait, hold up. Ohio State just lost to this team by 1. Michigan barely lost to TCU. And it looks like we were playing a JV team versus a Division I football team. And so, Josh, give me your first impressions. What was it like watching that game and what were you feeling in there?
So I told you last week I would not be shocked if Georgia won this game 41-3 or if they would have won 45-42, but I thought they'd win regardless. And gosh, dude, I don't think anybody expected the 65-7 final score, which is not only the largest margin of victory in a college national championship or playoff game, but bowl game period. This is the biggest blowout in college bowl game history.
What the Ohio State lost by 24 to Alabama. That's double. Sorry, it's more than double. It's more than double of what the last biggest score range was, which is just nuts to me. It really is.
Georgia got on the board pretty quick, 7-0, and then TCU, I think, turned it over there and held Georgia to a field goal. Then TCU scores on their next possession, so Georgia's up 10-7. It's looking like it might be a football game based on that.
Yeah, imagine you're just sitting there like, oh, we're in this game.
It's 10-7. Max Duggan runs in for like a 3-yard score, and you're like, okay, we're gonna be okay. We're at least gonna be close. And then Georgia proceeds to put up 55 unanswered points, and they continue to go into the fourth quarter. Ben, starters are out. Doesn't matter. They're still TCU still unable to get any kind of stop. But yeah, I was listening to Josh Pate on Late Kick, and the one glaring stat that would make you guarantee, or without watching the game, you'd know Georgia won, is Georgia scored as many touchdowns as TCU got first downs.
Oh,
But to your original point about, I guess, the final score, and we saw maybe the best college football playoff semifinal just a week before between Ohio State and Georgia and TCU and Michigan, both one-score games. And I'm starting to think, not that TCU didn't belong in the playoff. I think they did get the 4 teams right, but maybe the seeding was off.
Yeah.
Maybe those semifinal games were as close as they were because the 1 and 2 seed, the true 1-2 seed were playing each other, and then the 3-4 seed were playing each other.
Yeah.
Because if they were seeded Georgia 1 and TCU 4, like everybody was saying should have been the case, it would have made much more sense for that to be the semifinal. And then if we had, say, Ohio State and Georgia in the national championship and we saw the 42-41, we may not be too shocked by that. And I just say Ohio State there because I don't know who would have won an Ohio State-Michigan rematch, but you got to figure with everything that went wrong for Michigan, the 2 pick-sixes, the fumble at the goal line, a lot had to go right for TCU to be able to win that one. And maybe if they play, 10 times, Michigan wins 8 of those. But we got one of those final results where TCU ended up being the team to sneak past Michigan and get in the national championship. But Ben, back-to-back national championships now for Georgia. I put them number 3 in my preseason power rankings just out of respect for being the defending national champ. I didn't think they were truly a top 5 team with everybody that lost on that defense, but Georgia is the king of college football now, right? We can't say it's Nick Saban and Alabama anymore. It's Georgia's that you got to take it away from now, right?
I do want to say what the former quarterback at UCF, what's his name? Forget. He's at Florida. He was at Florida State.
Mackenzie Milton.
Mackenzie Milton said this: if last year, Jamison Williams doesn't get hurt and Marvin Harrison doesn't get hurt this year, he stated Georgia would have 0 national titles. Now, I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying if it's true or not, but you do look at the numbers. If you look at what Ohio State was doing, you look what Alabama was doing in that moment, in those different moments, right? Different things can happen. I will say this: Georgia deserves all the credit. Stetson Bennett, you've heard it from both Josh and I all year. We never really truly counted you as the top 5 Heisman guy. We never really did. In moments
Still
you
don't.
slipped in there. Still really don't.
To be honest, still don't.
And I think Stetson Bennett's he is the Tim Tebow, these kind of guys that they'll never be great pros. I don't believe Stetson Bennett's going to go out there and win a Super Bowl. I don't think so. I could be completely wrong. He's proven everyone wrong up to this point. But what I do think is that he is a competitor. He reminds me a lot of JT Barrett, not the walk-on to like scholarship player, but the fact that he's a leader. The guys love him. He wants to be there. He wants to win ball games. And I think as an Ohio State fan, it irks me because realizing how close you were and to know if you beat Georgia, you have that high-powered Ohio State offense versus TCU. Can you imagine what that score would have been? Like, you think that Georgia put up a lot of points. Imagine what Ohio State does with that offense and the way it was running. So, and I think Michigan says the same thing, right? That what if they would have played Georgia? What I think we learned is that if you get hot at the right time, and we saw Georgia at the end of the year get really hot, and they started playing really well. Stetson Bennett started playing really well. I think when you see that, that's when we start seeing the change, I think, in the seasons for a lot of these teams. But yeah, I would have to say, again, I'm very hesitant to say that they're the king of football because there's Nick Saban sitting right over there at Alabama, and he's never.
Well, that's not to say that like Alabama couldn't take it back. It's just like right now.
Yeah, right now.
I think Kirby has
back to
be
back. Yeah, I mean back to back championship. And someone asked me the other day, or someone asked me at football practice. They said, "What would it take for Ohio State to feel like to be crowned?" And I said, "Well, first of all, they got to win a national title." But I said, they need to have what Kirby has, and that's respect. And same with Nick Saban. These guys come back for a 4th year, a 5th year. They do these things because they wanna win titles, right? There's a legacy, right? We hear the word legacy all the time, and I think that's something that like I wish more college athletes had, and I think some of them are starting to turn to that, realizing that, hey, if I'm making money here in college, why not I just leave a legacy while I'm here? Where it used to be 3 years we're done if I'm the best, and it still will happen. I'm not saying it won't. But look at CJ Stroud, like he put everything on the line against Georgia to leave a legacy. You look at Stetson Bennett, he left everything on the line to do what he had to do. Same with Duggan as well. Like he put everything on the line he could. So one thing I did learn is that Duggan might not be a really great NFL quarterback. That's one thing.
It took you this long to figure that out?
I mean, I never didn't, but at least I feel like I was more confident about him than Stetson Bennett. That was just
Fair.
like the
Yeah,
way he
me
is
too.
and the way he plays.
Me
So
too.
what I did learn is that Georgia's defense is good. The thing is, it's so hard to see if Georgia's defense is super, super good because against like Ohio State, they look like a very lackluster at times defense. And was that a one-off, or was that just because they finally played a very, very good offense? So I think that's the interesting thing about Georgia. But again, I know here in a little bit, Josh doesn't know this, but here next few weeks, we're going to put out our way too early top 25, not 20, top 25. We'll maybe do our top 10, but who we think will be there at the beginning of next year. And we'll see what happens. Georgia loses their quarterback. Ohio State loses their quarterback. Let's see who else loses their quarterback.
Tennessee
Alabama
will be
loses their
losing their
quarterback.
quarterback.
Tennessee, Alabama,
Florida will be losing their quarterback. Just thinking
Michigan,
of the SEC.
USC.
South Carolina,
Yeah.
Michigan will be. Well, Michigan still has theirs.
Yep. South
USC
Carolina
still
will as
has
well.
theirs.
South Carolina will as well.
Yeah, I think Rattler. I don't think he's declared.
No, he came back. He said he's coming back.
He's coming back. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, Clemson in a way is going to be getting a new quarterback too. Klubnik never actually started a game until the bowl game. So yeah, a lot of the powerhouses are going to be starting with a new kid.
But
up there.
Josh, what does it matter? And after this next year, it doesn't matter. You literally can be Ohio State and lose one game a year, and you make the football playoff. So
yeah,
it doesn't really matter anymore.
What was just out of curiosity? Let me check if I can find the final rankings here, because I would guarantee you that there's a 3-loss team in there too.
Yeah, Ohio State was at 4. I know that. Michigan was at 3. TCU at 2. Georgia at
1. Okay, Florida State 3 losses was number 11. Utah, which had 3 losses, was number 10. USC got their 3rd loss in a bowl game, so I'm not going to count that for this. But yeah, you could even lose 3 games, Ben, and still be okay.
I'm sorry. I'm going to agree with Aaron Lynn. It's nuts. It's just,
also, yeah, speaking of Aaron and the 5th and goal dudes too, think about this, because in the new 12-team format, we're not going to see the true 1 through 4 be the top 4 seeds. We're going to see teams like Utah be a top 4 seed and get a first-round bye.
Which is
we're going to see teams like Kansas State get a first-round bye and be in that top 4. So and I mean, most of the time we don't really see upsets in those big national championship games for true playoff teams, right? Like the Big Ten champion got it done. Georgia got it done. So Michigan got it done.
Yeah, it's interesting. What in this game, in this national title game, before we finish up this talk, in this national title game, do you think Georgia was just kind of ticked off in the fact that they about got beat by Ohio State? Like, I just felt like watching those highlights, like this team was just mad the fact that a Big Ten, like literally Ohio State, a team they know they should have beat, almost beat them, and they wanted to send a message like, "Hey, we are the Kings," because that's what it just looked like to me. It was like they just looked like a really ticked off team that just wanted to come in and lay some wood. Maybe that, I don't know what you saw from Georgia, but it didn't look like the same Georgia that was there against Ohio State. That's for sure. And I know it was TCU, but still.
Yeah, I think the thing too, and Kirby said at the end of the game, and people have been talking about it too, is just the chip that Georgia has maintained on its shoulder all year long, like never getting lax. Like maybe they weren't playing their best football in that Ohio State game and they almost lost it. Maybe they weren't playing their best football. I think it was in the Missouri game, and that was like a close 1-score game too. But they were playing their best football against TCU. Like maybe the Ohio State game was more so a wake-up call. Maybe the experience that Georgia had as well. The whole entire Georgia coaching staff, players like Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers and Jalen Carter and Keely Ringo, all were here last year. For TCU, new head coach. I imagine a lot of new first-time coaches in the playoffs on that staff. Everybody on the TCU roster, I believe, first time, unless there's like a transfer from a playoff team that they had on their team that I don't know about. But I think the experience showed. I think the chip on their shoulder stayed there all throughout the year, and they just continued to work. And since you did bring up Ohio State having some guys out, I mean, they had to play most of the season without Nolan Smith, who's going to be one of their top defenders. And then not a guy that was out in this game, but we saw the impact that A.D. Mitchell had on the passing game. I think missing him, I think since week 3, having him come back in the playoffs, what another extra weapon. And then Brock Bowers too. This kid might be the best non-quarterback in football, Ben, next season.
And think what Ohio State did. Ohio State shut him down. That just shows you, again, that just shows you, if you look back at that Ohio State Georgia game, how epic that game was. Like there was guys shutting down each other. There was some guys you never heard of coming up, and so it was awesome to see. But speaking of Georgia, there's some drama going on. Not really drama. It's drama in a Ohio State fan's mind, but
well, maybe Georgia winning back-to-back has something to do with this.
Maybe it's true. Maybe that's true. So, as you all know, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Dylan Raiola, number 1 player in 2024. He's going to be a senior next year in high school. Stud, one of the best prospects they've seen.
1.0 recruit.
Yeah, he's unreal. They even say he's better than Ewers was in high school. He's a stud. He decommitted from Ohio State, and now there's a lot of different things why. I was talking with my dad about it, and one of the things that Dad read about was the fact that he was hearing rumblings that Ryan Day might be giving up play calling, and he wanted to learn from under Ryan Day, wanted to play under that. There was that, but there was also, on top of that, the whole thing where he didn't want them to take a 2023 quarterback. And they ended up taking Kleinholtz or however you say his name, from South Dakota. They ended up getting him as that kind of that swing quarterback, the guy between the two classes. And that could have, we don't know, kind of ticked off Raiola to a point where he decides to decommit. And it's a bummer because now he was at the national championship game watching Georgia. He's supposedly going to go on a visit to Georgia. He's crystal ball to Georgia. And if you're an Ohio State fan, and I know I'm in this boat too, you literally didn't go out to get Dante Moore, who's not too far from Michigan, was interested in Ohio State. You could have, I think, landed him. I think Josh and I both can agree on that. You could have landed him if you tried hard enough. I think you could have landed him. And he then went to Oregon, now switched from there to UCLA. Now they have UCLA coming to the Big Ten. You have Raiola possibly going to Georgia. Now you have to sit back and develop a guy that might not be as natural as some of these other guys that were available. It's really interesting to me. And again, this goes back to Ryan Day, I think, wanting his guy, but not realizing, I don't know how he hasn't figured this out yet. Like, hey, you need to go after everyone. It's recruiting. I'm not saying everyone, but go after the top 3 guys and say, hey, we're going to try to get somebody. So yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Josh? But it was very fascinating, like to hear a lot of this backstory behind it and kind of that idea.
Yeah, if that's the case, I mean, that's kind of interesting because Ohio State fans have been advocating for Ryan Day to give up play calling, and who would have thought that doing maybe the right thing for the whole entire team might have resulted in, I guess, a top quarterback recruit decommitting. But I mean, we've seen Ohio State get screwed in some recruiting situations before.
Yeah.
I mean, the Quinn Ewers situation made him basically lose out on Drew Aller, and now this, I guess, 2023 quarterback that they signed might make them miss out on Raiola. And I mean, I'm with you, dude. I don't think that anyone's guaranteed until they're officially signed. Like, committed doesn't even really mean anything to me anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, the Alabama quarterback room had Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones all in it. And just because they got, like, I think Jalen Hurts was the first guy maybe that they got, that didn't stop them from going out and getting a guy like Tua. And then that didn't stop them from going out and getting a guy like Mac Jones. Like,
transfers are part of it. That's just going to happen.
100%. Yeah. And so I don't think Ohio State, I mean, they got experience with this. They should eventually learn from this mistake that, like you said, you got to continue to recruit guys. And just because you have one committed in one class doesn't mean that you shouldn't go and try to get another one. And then on Raiola's point too, it's like, if you don't want a 2023 kid, like, what are you worried about 1.0?
That's what I'm
like,
saying.
Come out and prove it.
Yeah, like, and my thing is, like, why does it matter if they take Dante Moore? Okay, that's more competition. Like, I don't like these quarterbacks, and I think just in general players that they go, like, that's what I love about the Ohio State wide receiver room. I think you can agree with me on this, Josh, is that, like, they don't care. Like, it's loaded, it's stacked. They don't care. They're like, we're going to go out and compete. The best guy's going to play. And Ohio State just got back Xavier Johnson. This was a shock. First off, no one knew he had still eligibility left. This is like his 6th year. He's coming back. You had him, who's an X factor guy, can play running back, wide receiver, returner. He can play a little corner if you need to. You bring him back. That's more talent to that room, right? And if I'm Raiola, I'm looking at this going, oh my goodness, if I come in 2024, look at these weapons I'm going to have. You have by the way, in 2024, you have the number 1 receiver already committed. Possibly his teammate will be committing here shortly, which that means 2 wide receivers in that class, the top 2 wide receivers. So for me, it's very interesting, but we can spend a ton of time on this. I do want to briefly, before we go to the NFL, talk about what Ohio State's getting back. So Josh, I'm going to say some names here. of who they're losing and who they're getting back, and give me your thoughts on this. All right. So here's the guys they're losing. Obviously, CJ Stroud. He hasn't said anything yet, but he'd be stupid if he came back. I know High State fans, don't kill me, okay? He would be, okay? That's a lot of money he's leaving on the line. CJ Stroud,
A lot of money in college, though, too.
That is true. CJ Stroud not coming back.
That you can make now.
Yes, that is true. CJ Stroud will be gone. You lose Mitch Rossi, that kind of H-back tight end role. On the offensive line, you now just found out that Luke Weipler has decided not to come back for his senior year. He's now leaving as a center. Your both tackles are gone. Both Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones have both said they're leaving. And then on the defensive end ball, you have John Baptiste, who's transferring. You have a couple backup corners, depth guys that are transferring. You're losing Cameron Brown from the cornerback room.
Cam Brown left?
Yep. Yeah, because he's a senior, so he'll be gone. You're losing him. You're losing the McAllister safety. He's gone. You're losing trying to think who else you're losing. A couple other guys in the secondary. And then so that's who you're losing. That's a lot. Coming back though, you do have Mayan Williams has said he's coming back for his senior year. You have Xavier Johnson, who's an X factor. I think great secret. I think that could be a big boom next year. You have Jones coming back, who is a 6-year senior. He decided to come back this next year, do a 6th year. I think it's going to be great for the offensive line. You can play him at center or guard. And then you have, obviously, Zach Harrison's gone. So Eichenberg's still up in the air. You have Cade Stover. I think that's a huge one. There's very thin in the defense, the tight end room. To have him coming back is huge. What do you think of that, Josh? Like, do you think that, I know you're replacing quarterback and you're replacing some offensive linemen, especially 2 tackles. They weren't able to land any tackles in the transfer portal, which is kind of alarming. You're gonna have to develop then. But what is your thoughts on that kind of for Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean the O-line losses I think are going to be real. We've seen how much an offensive line can affect certain college football teams, and I don't know who they have coming up, but if they were trying to get some kids in the portal, it makes me feel like maybe they don't have or they won't be putting their best foot forward on the line that they'd like to be. But honestly, in the secondary, man, good riddance, Cam Brown and Tanner McAllister and whoever else is gone, dude. I don't know who the backups are, but they can't be much worse.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of young guys. I mean, a lot of young guys that played this year. I mean, they have a couple freshmen coming in. I mean, you have a lot of younger guys, but I think if they can get Ransom to come back and they get Eichenberg coming back, that will shore up that defense, I think, a little bit more. You have Chambers coming back. So if you can get those 3 guys back, that's a big step.
I think having Steele back to anchor the defense is huge. I think Jones coming back.
Burke will be back as well.
Replacing an entire offensive line is huge. And I think Stover, who finally got to, I guess, put all of his focus on just playing tight end instead of being kind of like a hybrid. We saw a little bit what he could do. Now if he can come back and kind of maybe repeat that success, set himself up for the NFL better, and also give whoever the other quarterback is another weapon with, I guess, JSN taking off to the league. But yeah, I guess some of those I don't really consider huge losses, but then especially the offensive line, I think that's gonna maybe be where you notice the most loss. Yeah.
I mean, think about this running back room, by the way, Josh. You have Mayan Williams, Travion Henderson when he gets healthy. You have Dallin Hayden. You have
Evan Pryor,
who's
which I'm still waiting and anticipating that one of those guys is going to leave. It would. The rumor is
again, it's not going to be Hayden. I think it's going to be Pryor. I mean, I feel
it would shock me if they got all 4 to come back. Like this would be just like when JT Barrett, Cardale Jones, and Braxton Miller all came back in the quarterback room in 2015. Well, Braxton eventually switched to wide receiver, but this would be similar to that to me. Like all 4 of those guys, I think have proven at times that they can play. Pryor hasn't done it like in an actual game, but we've seen flashes in the spring game. We've seen Travion freshman year, what he can do. We've seen Mayan Williams run for some tough games.
Key is healthy.
Down Hayden fill out. Yeah. So the running back room, I mean, the reason that all 4 of these guys played this year is because of the lack of health. So if you're Ohio State and you get all 4 of them back, that's awesome because you saw how important depth is. But again, I'd be shocked if they did get all 4 back just because all 4 have proven they can play.
The reason why this is such a big deal that he's coming back is the fact that they gotten 0 signees in this class, this freshman class coming in. So no running backs came in. So it's going to be key. You're also going to get a key walk-on Coffee back who tore his ACL, who had that crazy run of like 60 or like 50 yards or something like that. as a walk on. He'll be
Yeah.
back. You have a couple other guys, here. Yeah, train him. I don't know if he'll stay running back. If all of the guys stay, I think he'll go back to linebacker. But that's just we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
But
man.
wide receivers, you have the best wide receiver coming back, and you have. And by the way, people don't know this if you don't follow High State. McCord, who's probably going to be the next quarterback at High State, and Harrison were teammates in high school. So I just want to put that out there. Like, if you think Harrison was good this year with a guy who's developed a relationship with, imagine a guy that he's known for the last 6 years, putting those two guys in the same rhythm.
Hey, other big names that are returning outside of Ohio State. How shocked are you that Blake Corum's coming back to Michigan?
Not shocked at all.
I
When he
I
tore
guess
his knee
I
up,
was.
I think he knew he wasn't going to be healthy enough to truly put a show on for the draft guys. That's what I think.
This is how I see it. I just don't know what else he could prove in college football that he hasn't done already. Like, he's shown that he can be a workhorse. He has shown, I guess, what he can do when you give him the football in space. It's just if he comes back, I don't know what that could do to his draft stock. I don't think it could make it go up any higher. But to me, it's all about, like you were talking about, legacy earlier. I feel like that's what this is, especially with Donovan Edwards, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like Donovan Edwards came in, replaced him really nice. I feel like he could even maybe overtake Blake as running back 1 next year, or at the very most, split 50-50.
Is it shock, though, because of everything? By the way, it's just funny what Michigan's going through with all the sanctions right now. That's kind of funny because Harbaugh's secretly, I think, meeting with teams. Supposedly Denver, he had a meeting already with them. I just think it's very fascinating.
Well, this would be just like when Pete Carroll left USC.
Yeah. This is what's happening. I'm afraid to tell you, Michigan fans, don't be shocked if he leaves in the next month and a half.
We'll see how quickly they move on this stuff too, because has Tennessee even been punished for all the McDonald's bags that they handed out kids
really
for cash?
I think the interesting thing with Michigan is that you lose Harbaugh. I mean, do you put Minter as the head coach? Like, just that way it's less.
I don't think you have to do that. I think Michigan is a big enough job that you might attract more people than what you would expect.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, but
I don't think that you'd have to do a move like that where you promote a DC like that. I think that Michigan would have plenty of interest, especially with a quarterback like McCarthy, a running back room like Edwards and Corum in there, and then the defense and the offensive line play and development. I don't think Michigan would have an issue with that. But back to Corum, just with the way Edwards played, I feel like Edwards might be able to overtake him at running back 1. I don't think Corum can really prove much more in college that would boost his draft stock. So to me, him coming back is just all about, I guess, revenge in the playoffs, winning the national championship.
It's like old school mentality. Like, I want to come back for 4 years and do my job.
I mean, I'm not mad about it. I'm just very surprised.
Yeah, there's not any other real big surprises for me, honestly. I think a lot of them we either kind of knew or we knew where they were leaning, which will be definitely interesting. We hopefully will too. I know Fifth and Goal have already put out theirs. A few other people put out their mock draft 1.0s. Don't worry, people. I know some people have been asking me, like messaging me, DM me about it. It will be coming. We will have our draft 1.0. Maybe we'll get some guests this year, and we'll just have them also do a draft 1.0. I don't know. We'll see. Josh and I will talk about it, and we'll let you know. But we are shifting, obviously talking about the draft, we're shifting right to the NFL. Josh, our Browns suck.
Yeah, they do.
They're so bad, man. You can't even beat a team. Okay, hats off to the Steelers. You played well. Awesome. But the Browns, if you took the two teams and looked at the roster on each team and you stared at it, I think you would say, probably 95% of people would say this Browns team should beat the Steelers team. But you know what? It's the Browns, and the Steelers just decide to beat us. It seems like all the time.
Yeah, Myles Garrett, what was he saying? That with Pittsburgh being who they consider their rival and they got a chance to keep out of the playoffs, which I don't think Pittsburgh got in the playoffs.
No, they
anyway.
didn't. They didn't.
But yeah, Cleveland could have definitely guaranteed that they did not get it with a win, and they didn't really look like they cared, I guess.
No, it just didn't feel like it.
I picked Cleveland to win.
We both did, yes.
Yeah, I just figured, the more reps for Deshaun Watson, like this being his last game of the season, that
he didn't look terrible.
This is the most experienced he'd be all year.
He didn't look terrible.
They beat Pittsburgh the first time by, I think, 3 points with Jacoby Brissett. So it was just kind of a thing where I felt like Cleveland could pull off both games against Pittsburgh, but not the case. Yeah, no Jadeveon Clowney in this one. That was kind of some fun midweek drama to
Of
read
course it
about, wasn't
was.
it?
This is the thing, and I think Jim
I don't know
Donovan,
where that came from
you
either,
know,
because him and
well,
Miles have seemed
it
like
was it
buds
was Mary
most of the
Cabot.
time.
It was Mary Cabot who decides to always put something in. Just she annoys me whenever she writes stuff about
But
the Browns.
are you saying that may not be true then, or are you saying
I just think that she sometimes exaggerates things. Like if you read her stuff, like it's the truth, but it's not like the exact.
there's definitely a lot of evidence out there for Cleveland media maybe not being the biggest Browns fans, or they like
Yeah.
watching the team stuff.
Well, I
Like
think
Tony
that
Gross, is it Tony Grossi too, the guy that would always beef with
yeah.
Baker Mayfield on
Also,
purpose?
did
He
you know
doesn't
that?
really seem like he cares about the Browns. Mary Kay doesn't really seem like she cares that much. So
Did you hear
it's
about
kind of
Bernie
weird.
Kosar? Bernie Kosar got fired
Yeah, good.
because he bet on the Browns. I'm like, Bernie,
Anytime,
come
hey,
on, Bernie, come on,
I'm
Bernie.
gonna throw out my political joke out here too. Anytime
Okay.
you team up with Tim Ryan in a campaign, like, you should probably be fired, right? I did it.
Oh, he finally added a political joke to our show.
I did. The Browns just took a little longer, and they put it on. I guess a bet that he put it on, but we all
This
know
is
the
the
real
thing,
reason.
though, is I do agree with Jim Donovan. I don't know if you know him. He's the play-by-play on the radio,
Yes, I hear
and
him on the radio sometimes.
he said this in an interview. He said the organization needs to open up to the fans. They need to be more honest with the fans. They need to like these fans. You know, as I do, Browns fans are the most diehard fans in the NFL. I don't care who says anything. They will go through anything. They will literally tolerate so much garbage, and yet they'll still be there to cheer their team on. At some point, I think as ownership, you need to reward some of this hard effort by like explaining what's going on, like what's your idea, what's your goals. Like the Browns never talk about it, and that's the thing that I think bothers a lot of fans, a lot of people that are covering the team and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting. But enough of the Browns. Let's talk about the playoffs, Josh. Let's go through each matchup and then give our prediction. And at the very end, we're going to give our Super Bowl prediction, because obviously Ben's preseason Super Bowl prediction of the Broncos and the Rams just did not happen. So we're just going to ignore that completely.
Do we remember what my Super Bowl preseason prediction was?
No, I
I
don't.
did not have the Rams I don't think I had the Rams or the Broncos in. I did have the Broncos in the AFC Championship, though. I think I had the Bills coming out of the AFC. Out of the NFC, I think I might have picked Tampa Bay just with Tom Brady coming back
Yeah, I think you did. I
out
think
of
you had
retirement.
the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Anybody in the
That's a very
comments,
Josh thing to do, to not bet against Tom Brady.
if you're watching this or if you're listening to this, DM us. Let us know in the comments. Go back and watch that episode or listen to that episode, and then let us know in the comments who chose what, because we are terrible at remembering. So, Josh,
Well, we'd like to forget, right?
that's well, exactly. I didn't tell him that. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
So Josh, give us these breakdown. We'll go pretty quick, but we'll break it down what we think and give a prediction.
Well, why don't we talk about Tom Brady and the Bucks first, because I think they have the most interesting matchup so far against Dallas. Now, Dallas was very close to getting the 1 seed here. The Buccaneers come into this with a losing record and only are getting in because their division's trash.
The division
But
is legit. It's like
this is what I'm looking at, though, Ben. Dallas is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. However,
Okay.
Dak Prescott has proven time and again that he chokes in big moments like
Oh,
this.
100%.
Tom Brady, on the other hand, has proven that he rises to the occasion in moments like this.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, what version of Tom are we going to get? Because we've seen this Buccaneers team be so inconsistent this year, including Tom. But also, what version of Dak and Dallas are we going to get?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is a game that Dallas should easily win by 2 scores, but it's definitely not going to be that way, right?
If we asked Stephen A. Smith, he would let you know that the Cowboys are going to choke. But I'm not Stephen A. Smith. No, I this is my thoughts on this, and I'll give my prediction too. I agree with you in that inconsistent for both sides, really, honestly, and especially in the postseason, we haven't seen the Cowboys do anything. We know what Buccaneers will do. I'm going to surprise people here. I'm going the Buccaneers, and I think the Buccaneers are going to win. I'm thinking like 24-21. I think Tom Brady is going to somehow turn the clock back about 10 years, and 20 was 36, which is just weird to say, but I'm kidding. No, he was like 32 or whatever, but still. Yeah, so I'm going to go Buccaneers 24, Cowboys 21. I can't trust the Cowboys to win these games, so that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay too. Like, I'm not gonna bet against Tom Brady, but
No.
I wouldn't necessarily bet for them in this game
Yeah.
either. But based on what we've seen in the past, I do think that Tampa Bay and Tom Brady are at least going to win one game, and this is going to be the toughest team that they have to face in the
Yeah.
playoffs too, mind you, until maybe that there's a matchup down the road against Philly, but this will be their toughest game. So I do like Tampa Bay in this one, and I think it's going to be close. I'll go with about the 24-21 final score that you
Oh,
gave.
all right. So we have that game. Josh, what is the next one on the docket for this week?
Let's stick in the NFC with the Giants and the Vikings.
That's so weird to hear the
This is another
Giants, the
king. This is
playoff
another
matchup.
king of, well, not another, I should say, but a battle of mid QBs. Right. This is the important factor here too, Ben. This is a 4:30 game, which means Kirk Cousins is not going to be playing as his 1 p.m. self. But do you also at the same time want to gamble on Daniel Jones winning a playoff
Dude,
game?
I'm telling you, this is the most stupid matchup because I don't have a
Minnesota's a
trusted.
3-point favorite coming into this one. They have Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver
That's
leader,
true.
a great running back in Dalvin Cook. Minnesota really should blow this game out of the water. Giants, the lack of experience, kind of maybe just happy to be here. Brian Daboll in his first
It's
year,
just the weird
but
part is 2 years ago you're talking about how everyone wanted Daniel Jones to be cut, get rid of him. Even last year, wanted to get rid of
I don't
him,
even
don't
think they
want him
picked
around.
up his fifth-year option, did
They
they?
didn't, but now they're talking about an extension and stuff. It's just weird. Anyways, dude, do I like this is the game where I like looking like I flip a coin. No, I think the Vikings are going to end up winning this game. I think because of Cousins and Jefferson connection, I think Dalvin Cook's going to have a big game. I just don't trust the Giants because they're from New York. And what New York team has done anything since the Giants won a Super Bowl, right? Like, so for me, I
Well,
think I'm going to
the
go.
Giants when they were winning Super Bowls were coming in with like 8-8,
I
9-7
know, but
records.
I don't care. I'm going Vikings. That's my pick. I'm going to go Vikings 35, Giants 21.
Yeah, I think this is a really good opportunity for Kirk Cousins to maybe finally prove that he can win at non 1 p.m. games. So I'll go with you, and I'll go with Vikings by a touchdown, like a 35-28 final. We'll say.
Oh, I'm liking it. Next up, Mr.
We'll go
Josh.
with the other NFC matchup. This one is the first one that's happening on Saturday at 4:30. This is the Seahawks and the 49ers,
That's
a
going to be a good one.
divisional
Ooh,
rival. We've loved watching the 49ers and Seahawks go at it in the playoffs in the past. On one end, you got first, well, not first, but I guess Geno Smith. Nobody expected him to be leading this team to the playoffs, really getting his first opportunity to be a full-time starter in a long time. And then on the flip side, Ben, 49ers are 13-4, but they're rolling with Brock Purdy still, Mr. Irrelevant, third string quarterback on the depth chart to start the year.
yeah,
This is truly the matchup of Cinderella QBs, and it's honestly going to suck once one of them finally gets
yeah,
eliminated in this game. You almost hate to root for one or the other in this one, but I do love Brock Purdy's weapons a lot more with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Debo
yeah.
Samuel in this one, and the defensive play that the 49ers have been playing with Nick Bosa and dudes like that, man. I just feel like
Give me
uh
your prediction then. What's your prediction?
I'm going with the 49ers here. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it might be something like 28-24. And I just the way that Kyle Shanahan runs offense, man, he's been making it to NFC Championship with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing 8 passes in a game before. Like Brock Purdy is not going to have to do a whole lot in this game. The defense and the running game and everything else around him is going to take care of itself, I think.
Yeah, like I want to say the 49ers and I was really debating this when I knew we were going to kind of talk about this. I was kind of debating this. For me, like I trust the 49ers I like Nick Bosa, obviously a high state guy. I think he should be defensive player of the year. If he's not, then there's something wrong. But again, it's the media, so everything's wrong. Um, but I think I look at what Geno Smith. The issue I have with Purdy is that it's been such a small sample size. With Geno Smith, we've seen all year what he's done, and we've seen all year. We also see what Walker's done as a rookie, going out and running for over 1,000 yards. The defense, yeah, it's not the Legion of Boom. It's not that level of defense, but it's a good defense. It's a solid defense, and I think the offense maybe not as has elite playmakers, but there's something that tells me that Geno is finally going to get it done, and I believe the Seahawks will win this game. I'm going to go 27. No, actually, I'm going to go 2017 Seahawks. 2017 Seahawks.
I will point out to you the last time at the 49ers, well, I guess I shouldn't say last time, a couple times ago when they made the Super Bowl, it was with a young Colin Kaepernick who was filling in halfway through the season
That is
as a
true.
backup quarterback. Brock Purdy, obviously a different situation, being a rookie, like you said, the smaller sample size, but sometimes that can kind of play in your favor when teams don't have a ton of film to gather on you.
That is true. But I'm still sticking
But
with
I
it.
could honestly see the same thing going for you. I mean, you could easily say the pressure will get to Purdy. Geno Smith, while he has not really been a starter in this league, has been in the league for quite a bit now. As a backup quarterback, you're always preparing for that moment. So we'll see if he rises to the occasion in this moment.
Bold prediction.
But
Bold prediction. Geno Smith signs a 4-year deal after this game. That's
and
what
they
I'm going to say.
don't draft a quarterback.
Bold prediction.
Bold
Josh, next
prediction
one up
indeed.
below.
Yeah, let's flip over to the AFC and start with the first game on Saturday. This is the Chargers and the Jaguars.
That's just weird. The Jaguar. It's just weird to hear them and how Urban Meyer had his chance and he blew it. But,
It is weird. We've seen Trevor Lawrence step up in big games this season.
That division is also crap. So both
Yes, it
Souths
is.
are terrible. Both.
Yes, it is. So you could argue the Jaguars basically got here for the same reason the Buccaneers did.
Or the fact
But
that the Titans choked and were like 7-2.
man, the Titans had so many injuries though this season that they had to deal with, dude, because they started off hot, and then once the injuries started piling up, it just
What do we think now of Willis? Do we he
Malik
looked
Willis?
terrible. He looked terrible this year. When you saw him play, he looked so bad.
I mean, I would have taken him if I was a team with the thought that he would be a project. I wouldn't want him to start right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think we saw a little bit of that.
The
like
fact
he's
that
definitely not ready.
Josh Dobbs did better than him and played like 2 games with him.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs has been a solid backup at times. But we'll talk about these matchups now. Justin Herbert, this is his first time in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence, his first time in the playoffs as well.
Fun fact, half the quarterbacks in the playoffs are younger than Stetson Bennett. I just want to point that out.
That is a wild stat.
Old man.
However, Trevor Lawrence's head coach, Doug Peterson, has been not only in the playoffs, but in the Super Bowl before.
Yeah.
The Chargers, I believe also Mike Williams might be a game time decision if he hasn't already been ruled out in this one. So huge loss for that offense if that's the case. This is a tough one for me to pick, Ben, honestly. This might be the toughest game.
Is it tough because we both hated on the Chargers? Or at least I did.
There still might be a little bit of that. Like I thought the Chargers were going to be in last place, and so I really don't see them as good. But I also didn't think the Jaguars were going to be in this spot either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so world's come back at us.
It's tough to say, man. Like sometimes quarterbacks, I mean, we saw Joe Burrow tear it up in his first appearance in the playoffs. You would think maybe Justin Herbert could do something like that, but there's some kind of, my gut says the Jags, and I really hate saying that, but I mean, what they've been able to do this year while the division has sucked. I mean, 9-8 for the Jags, when you look at it like just in itself, is really good. Going out and making moves like getting Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, and we thought they overpaid for him, but maybe after all they didn't. Having Travis Etienne fully healthy, Trevor Lawrence being able to take that next step forward, getting an experienced coach like Doug Peterson in the building, it's done a lot of good for the team, and maybe it gets them at least one playoff win. So my gut says Jags. That's what I'll go with. It's going to be an ugly game, I feel like, though. Maybe not as high scoring as what some people would think. So I'm going to say this is going to be a 25 to... We'll go 1 point, 25-24, Ben. Jags sneaking by.
I'm going to see. I'm going to stick with the fact that I don't believe the Chargers belong in the playoffs right now. So I'm going to go Jaguars 24. I'm going to go Chargers. Let's go Chargers 20. So Jaguars 24, Chargers 20. I just think, again, Trevor Lawrence has made a lot of strides. Etienne, I don't trust. The defense hasn't been healthy for the Chargers. I don't know how healthy they're going to be. So that will also be interesting without Joey Bosa and stuff like that. So interested to see with that one. Josh, what is our next matchup?
Next matchup might have been much more exciting a couple weeks ago, but Dolphins and the Bills. Dolphins are rolling with a third-string quarterback in this situation, I believe. Bills, I believe, were my preseason AFC pick. We're still waiting for verification on that, but
pretty sure.
I'm going to be rolling with the Bills. The Dolphins, I didn't expect them to be here. I thought they were overhyped, but the offense has looked incredible. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill might be the best 1-2 punch in the NFL as far as wide receivers go, but they don't have anybody worth noting throwing to them. I will put some respect on his name though and look up his name real quick. But I think Josh Allen, the Bills, man, this is just the first
Are you
of
talking about Hines, the guy that
several
did two,
wins.
the guy that did 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown?
No, I'm not talking about him, but you can. I didn't know
No,
that
I'm
that
not gonna mention
happened.
him. Yeah, he did that last week. So no, I will say this before you touch on that. I will say this. Our offense corner, I'm helping coach a football team over here in Hungary called the Budapest Cowbells, and our offensive coordinator is a huge Dolphins fan. And
Skylar Thompson's the quarterback. That's the boy.
there you go. Speaking of Skylar Thompson, our coach Nick, who's an offensive coordinator for us, he loves the Dolphins. We actually have a couple plays that the plays. I'm not going to say what they are, but a couple plays that are
Top secret.
maybe from the playbook of the Dolphins. So I want to say Dolphins, but I'm sorry, Nick. I'm not stupid. So I'm going to go with the Bills, and I'm going to say Bills win 35, Dolphins 16.
I forgot to put a final score on mine, but yeah, I'll actually one up you. I'll give the Bills 42 in this one. I'll give the Dolphins 10.
Yeah, it's not going to be close. So that is that, and I believe the last one that we're going to talk about is probably the most exciting one on the AFC.
Baltimore versus Cincinnati.
Ooh.
Yes.
You know where I'm about to go with this, so you don't even have to.
Well, let me tell you this, Ben. Buffalo is the heaviest favorite to win this week, being a 13-point favorite, but then, excuse me, one of the heavier favorites. I thought it was going to be the second. It's not the second either. Cincinnati, though, favored 8 points. Anytime you see more than 7 points in the NFL as a point spread, that's kind of wild to me, usually. So, Cincinnati, anytime you're over 1 score, I feel like that makes you a pretty heavy favorite. But I also know with Jared being a friend of the show, we're definitely not picking Cincinnati to win this game. So, why can Baltimore win this game, Ben?
Because I feel one, you've just paid your linebacker like $100 million, so defense better play well. If you didn't know that, Roquan Smith signed a huge deal. It's like 80 million guaranteed. It's ridiculous. I believe that the way the Ravens can win this is how they beat the Browns when they don't have their Lamar Jackson, and it's called running the ball. You have J.K. Dobbins healthy. You have the offensive line healthy. You just make your quarterback survive. Like whoever it is, if it's Huntley, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to play. He might play. I don't know if he will. If he doesn't play, it's a different story. But if Lamar Jackson does play, I just think this is going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be a gross game. If it's going to rain, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do weather-wise, but I just think it's going to be a slugfest. I'm going to say on a Justin Tucker game-winning field goal, 17-14, slug him out, punch him out. Ravens win this game because of the defense, the old Ray Lewis style defense. And also, Jared, if I'm wrong, I don't care. So yeah, Jared, just take that. Okay. Take it.
With Tyler Huntley at quarterback, the Ravens have beaten Denver 10-9. They've beaten Pittsburgh 16-14. They've beaten Atlanta 17-9. They lost one to Pittsburgh 16-13. They've lost one to Cleveland 13-3. And these two teams faced last week, Ben, to wrap up the regular season, but Anthony Brown is actually playing quarterback in this
He's
one for
awful.
Baltimore.
So bad.
And Cincinnati also had something that they were playing for here too, for like playoff seed and stuff. So Baltimore didn't really look like they cared in this one. But what I'm getting at is I feel like Lamar Jackson, if he does play in this game, he's playing for that big contract. Baltimore's record, I don't feel, just because of all those games that Lamar missed, I feel like they're better than what their record shows right now. Excuse me. And I'm kind of with you, dude. I feel like the Baltimore running game, when they are on it, like we've seen this offense explode they put up 37 on New England, and a losing effort to Miami in week 2, they put up 38. When Lamar is rolling, they're rolling. And I feel like in my heart, I know Cincinnati's going to win this game, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Baltimore to win it just because.
You also got to remember, Josh, is that Baltimore is part of us Browns, okay? They stole the Browns from us. So technically we are the Ravens, just secretly, and the Browns are, and that we actually have won a Super Bowl recently. It's just no one ever mentions it. it feels more natural to go this way, even though I don't like both teams. And mainly it sucks because one of my former coworkers is a huge Baltimore Ravens fan, and I'm glad he doesn't really listen to this show because then he would make fun of me the fact that I chose the Ravens. But
Yeah, it does
that's what
kind
it
of
is.
suck too, because Cincinnati's home stadium is Paul Brown Stadium
Yeah,
too.
it's
So
it's
it's like
just
the
it
Browns are
hurts. It hurts.
unnecessarily connected to two teams
That
that
is
were
true.
better than them this year.
All I'm going to say is the Browns should have been here, but they're not. And moving on, before we finish up the show, Josh, let's give us a Super Bowl prediction. Who's coming out of the AFC? Who's coming out of the NFC? Go.
But we didn't get to talk about them today because they're on a bye. But I really feel like Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes have been
At another
just
level.
something else this year, dude. Like
They ran in a circle,
there was
Josh. They ran in a
discussion
circle and
there
then
was
did a play.
discussion about who the best quarterback in the league was. I feel like some people fell in the camp of Josh Allen. There was maybe some people that felt it was Russell Wilson, but they definitely don't think that now. Maybe Joe Burrow was going to take over this season, but Patrick Mahomes proved to everybody that there's no other quarterback like him, first
Without
off, and
Tyreek Hill.
second, for the next. And on top of that, too, he's doing it without Tyreek Hill. And then my second point, for the next 10 years, I feel like Patrick Mahomes is the best in the league until proven otherwise. Kind of like how LeBron has been the best in the NBA until proven otherwise kind of situation. Like that's Pat Mahomes. I feel like Kansas City. Back to Tyreek Hill. That trade really worked out for both teams. It
Oh
made
yeah.
Miami a playoff team, and somehow Kansas City didn't rely on him so much that they were able to, I guess, open up the playbook a little bit more and rely on other guys. So it really did work out for everybody. But I feel like Kansas City's coming out of AFC, so that's my prediction out there. As far as the NFC goes, dude, it's tough to say. I know Philadelphia is the one seed out there, and they've looked unbeatable at times, especially when Jalen Hurts has been on the field. But I feel like experience does matter. This is Nick Sirianni's first time coaching or being a head coach in the playoffs. This is Jalen Hurts, I think. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. Is this Nick Sirianni's first year coaching? Because Philly was in the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah, I think he was there last year. I'm pretty sure he was the
Okay.
second year.
I was gonna
Pretty
say
sure.
I know Jalen Hurts was there last year, so he's been in a playoff game before. So maybe Nick was here too last year. So scratch that inexperienced nonsense. I guess I just feel like there's other teams in the NFC, like the 49ers. I just for some reason I can't count them out the way that Kyle Shanahan coaches and how he just makes the quarterback position not that important in his system. I feel like the NFC Championship game will be, unless I don't know how the matchups work out. I hope we get a Philly San Francisco NFC matchup. And right now, I would probably lean San Fran, to be honest, if we're getting a fully healthy 49er team with Debo playing and Kittle playing. And then you end up with a San Francisco KC rematch from a couple years ago. But I think once again, Kansas City would take it. So Kansas
All
City is my
right.
Super Bowl pick, regardless of who's coming out of the NFC.
In my AFC prediction, it's obviously the Broncos. I'm kidding. Don't mention them, okay? It's going to be, I believe, I'm agreeing with you 100%. It's going to be Kansas City. We didn't talk about it at all today, but they just look like the best team in the
I
NFL
hate
right now.
picking one seeds,
Yeah, I do too, but it's just a
but
reality. It's a reality.
I had to pick one. Like Kansas
Yeah.
City just seems like truly legit.
Yeah, they're for me number one overall, and I think they're gonna go out of the AFC. I don't think it's gonna be close. And in the NFC, I couldn't pick the 49ers because I've already had them being losing to the Seahawks.
Right.
And I don't want to say the Eagles because the Eagles are just they've been a little inconsistent lately. I know that's without Jalen Hurts,
Some
but
of that's
still.
without Jalen though, so
But I
it's
will
tough to
say
hold that
this:
against him.
there is something about me every year for the last 3 years I've picked against Tom Brady, or the last probably decade I picked against Tom Brady. Never wanted to pick him in the playoffs. I'm going to put it out here. They're going to make the Super Bowl. It's going to be, yes, a terrible, an 8-9 team,
Eight and
terrible 8-9
nine.
team
Eight and
going
nine
to
in
the
the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
Going to the Super Bowl. It might be a bold prediction, but I don't care. 8-9 Super Bowl team, or they were 8-9. Then go to the Super Bowl. They will face the Chiefs. The Chiefs will win, so I do have the Chiefs winning, but I have them facing the Buccaneers. And Tom Brady, that's his walk into the sunset. He heads off into retirement. That's my thought process. But that's who I have. I have the Kansas City winning against the Buccaneers. So those are our predictions. Pretty good. I think we're pretty good, Josh.
I hope so, man. It's wild picking a team quarterback by Brock Purdy to make the Super Bowl. It's kind of wild picking a team that doesn't even have a winning record to go to the Super Bowl. but we are on the same page about Kansas City, so maybe we're onto something there.
Hey, that's all that matters. And you know what matters? You matter. That was the cringiest TV ad of all time. But you know what? You do matter. We care about you. Thank you guys so much for once again making, this show possible. Without people listening, then it would just be Josh and I talking, and it'd be weird. All right. It'd be a little weird. But no, we appreciate what you guys are doing. A lot of things that we're trying to work on. Again, like I said, the hope is we get out, a mock 1.0 coming out soon. We will have hopefully some more basketball stuff next week. Obviously, we're recapping the college football. Again,
I watched Carolina lose to
this is the thing.
Virginia last night.
We keep saying that this was the last week of football. We said that last week. We said this.
Well,
this
college
week.
football specifically.
Yes. Well,
not so much NFL.
We still, but still, the idea. We will get there, people. We will get there, and we will talk about more of that stuff as the months and the weeks and the months go on. So once again, we want to thank you so much for listening. If you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you like us or share us or give us 5 stars. I don't know. Share it with your brother or your coworker, even if maybe don't log on to their computer. That's bad. Don't do that. But anyways, hope you guys do enjoy that. And if you have enjoyed watching our beautiful faces, because we are beautiful, then subscribe, share this video. If you would like to see more of this like that, let us know. And remember to comment below. Remember, what was our picks before? Remind us of how terrible we are, but make sure you comment below that as well. So once again, thank you. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Watch some football, watch some basketball, watch cricket. I don't know. Just choose a sport. Watch a sport with some family and friends. Until next time, we'll see ya.